they're seeing 30 to 70% more revenue on top of what they're getting from the conversion. So like that's the other piece of it is just you're getting to see a lot more of the ongoing revenue, like the true value being generated in terms of revenue,
Yeah.
which right now you're just not getting credit for. So you have that quick win too.
Welcome, affiliate listeners, to another episode of the Affiliate Podcast, where we make sure you have all the information that you need to know to be successful and, most importantly, inspired when doing affiliate marketing. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people think is unsexy, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's actually the most sexy thing in affiliate marketing, which is tracking and attribution. Because if we don't know who makes the sale, that means somebody's not getting paid. And in a world of affiliate marketing where affiliates don't get paid for the work they do, I don't like it and I don't want it. So there's nothing sexier to me than talking about unlocking your attribution. And today, our amazing guest is not only going to tell you some secrets and new ways that you could look at attribution that honestly are unlocking traffic channels in ways that we've never seen in the past are unlocked today. So I'm really excited about that, but also how you could take your current traffic that you're running and enhance it and improve it with better tracking. Data is what makes a marketer great, and we're going to be talking about how to get great data even better with our amazing guest, Michael Cole at SV. So, Michael, how are you doing today, by the way? I'll explain who you are first, but just asking how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and wow, what an intro. Now I'm excited to learn about attribution. So
Beautiful. Yeah. So as we have an expert here, Michael is the SVP of marketing over at Everflow. Everflow is a partner of ours, but really Everflow is a partner to every online marketer out there because of what they do. If you want to know what affiliates are making, what impact, how much impact, and when they're actually making it in your sales cycle, Everflow does that and so much more. So really stoked to have you here today, Michael. Before we kind of go into the big question that I teased and do want to jump into, I'd love if you could give us kind of the abridged version of your journey and kind of how you got into this wacky world of tracking, attribution, and most importantly, online marketing.
Sure, yeah. So we can go way back because everything is full circle in this world.
Always.
So back in, I think, 2008, I was at UC Santa Barbara, and one of my professors was like, "Hey, I have this marketing agency on the side. Would anyone like to apply?" This happening to be Santa Barbara, in the center of all the early affiliate networks. I applied for it. It turned out I was the only person who applied for it, so I got that job. I'm very talented.
Nice.
And so I was at like the very early days of like affiliate marketing and at a agency managing affiliate programs, and got to see it from that entire ecosystem, got to meet everyone in it. It was a fun time, a lot of revenue there, got to see sort of like the fundamental realities of affiliate marketing and where it's incredible and where a lot of places it's dropped the ball. And that's very insightful towards where it's evolved over these years. And then after that, we ended up getting acquired by a customer, and then I did a bunch of startups. And then more recently, I launched a mobile ad network and basically was just on a consulting basis and managed to scale up to like $7-8 million a year on this little early platform known as Everflow. And they were looking for their first marketing hire, and I joined them, and it's been 7 years since then. So
that's awesome.
It's a fun journey, and all this partner marketing goes straight back to affiliate marketing because that's where the money is at. And so it's about where do we take it to the next level.
Well, I love that too, that I love an entrepreneurial journey, and really it's really that same thing. Is it starts with being bold, right? And there's no one in this affiliate world that didn't make a bold decision at least once to get them where they are. And being the person that just raises their hand and says, "Hey, professor, I'll give it a shot," which wild, you're the only one. That's so awesome. So now real fast, the most important question to see if I can remember is UCSB the banana slugs. Was that their mascot?
We were the Gauchos, which I don't know why you didn't remember Argentinian Cowboys. So memorable for a mascot.
Yes. But I do actually now remember the Gauchos because of they did have a run in the tournament. There's always some weird small California school that ends up in the tournament with a cool mascot, and I do remember the Gauchos. I think they had what felt like could have been a problematic. Why can't I think it mascot too? That could have been one of the issues why it stuck out. So less on problematic mascots and more on Everflow. So one of the things that we're talking about, and I'll just kind of set the stage. We know that right now, tier one social has become really, really competitive. There's a lot more people buying media in those spaces. And so, one thing that I always like to talk about is if you see money leave one market and all flood into another, you should pay attention to where the money left. If we want to go with a sport reference, as we talk about basketball, essentially you're always trying to move the ball where the zone isn't, right? And collapse that zone until you get your open shot. And essentially that's where money should go oftentimes. So I bring that up because if we look at a run to non-traditional media or tier one social and an exit from traditional media, that presents opportunity. But one of the big opportunities in traditional, we'll call it a CPM model, is attribution gets really, really funky. And so it became a very expensive medium for people to buy. And I would even cascade this into influencers and podcasters, YouTubers. Those kind of follow more of that CPM model. It's very, very challenging if you don't have a lot of money to lose, but you want to take advantage of what I would argue might even be a more exciting traffic source than what we're seeing in tier one social. So come that being said, we talked about this, you said, hey, no worries with the right tracking partner. So talk to me a little bit about how Everflow, and we could focus on influencers specifically in that CPM creator market, we'll say, some of the solutions that you guys have that really kind of flip the head a little bit from CPMs to something that's a little bit more impactful.
Yeah, I think before we do that, let's do the sort of like little history lesson on why attribution matters for any of these
Yeah.
channels. So, as I was saying, the interesting thing of doing affiliate management is that you get to see that when you're at an affiliate management agency long ago, the way you started every single program was with coupon websites because you have a client, they want to see traffic and performance right away. Most of those programs in early days were like e-commerce focused, very like consumer oriented. It's gotten a lot broader since then, but it was just the fundamental that you could basically take an affiliate program for a client, set a good payout structure, turn on coupon websites. They don't have to do anything. They're already ranked up on all these keywords. Boom, you already get traffic and conversions. You have something to report to your client. You can be like, look how much revenue I was driving month after month from day one. Like instant traffic. Who doesn't love that? But the problem with that and sort of the challenge that affiliate marketing has had in that sort of transition phase was if everything is being tracked back to coupon websites because as soon as you buy, right before you buy, you see that promo code box, you go find a coupon website, they fire off their tracking as soon as you grab that coupon, you put it back, they get credit for this, which means that all the other interesting affiliates that you wanted to scale were not getting credit. So if you have content affiliates, and the good thing is if they have just SEO, like they're not taking in too much cost, so they can promote with just a little bit of commissions, but most of their commissions was getting cut because the people would get to your website, then get credited to a coupon website. Same with media buyers. So media buyers were in the early days when I was doing affiliate programs, Google Ads was still dirt cheap. So there was lots and lots of Google Ad media buyers. And then over time they all disappeared because it's like, why would you spend a lot of money to get a user that then gets credited to a coupon website? So these were the sort of things, and like that whole coupon side of it in a lot of like large established affiliate programs is still rampant because again,
Mm-hmm.
like it makes the manager be able to drive reports for their client right away of like, look how much revenue they're driving. The affiliate networks themselves had no reason to like overturn the golden goose that lays eggs for them because that's where most of the payouts were. And so it kind of got this dysfunctional setup where all of these more interesting types of affiliates were the ones you would brag to your boss about were generating very little sales because most of it was being attributed back to coupon. So this last touch thing has a problem of being that like last touch will always be the most bottom of funnel and like the last thing you do before you buy, and that hides the actual one driving the value. That just shows you who is the final thing that got you over the edge, which there's a place for that, don't get me wrong, but it led to sort of dysfunction in affiliate marketing, and like it's continued to grow and scale, and now it's so many billions of dollars per year. But the kind of affiliates that would make your boss excited are not winning in that scenario where almost all of it is being driven by the things that are getting people to make that final like credit card purchase. So I think that's a
Yeah.
good like starting place to keep in mind for all these things and why you need to sort of think differently.
Yeah, I love that because it's really a good way. And you said it beautifully. And thanks for putting that setback of why attribution is so important. Because essentially, I think transactions and online activity looks more like a dust cloud. It's kind of like what Pigpen has following him around all the time as we get near Halloween and the holiday season, right? But through that, sometimes we get a lot of dust kicked up, and we only see a conversion come out of it, and that's all that we know. But there's a lot that's happening between there. So efficiency with what affiliates driving what kind of traffic, and then therefore knowing the quality of that traffic matters quite a bit. And yeah, those coupons could just be completely blinding you. And in fact, the amount of times I've heard people start to say, I don't want to do affiliate marketing because of that, when in reality, and they think that's all there is, when in reality, all that represents is there's a lot of traffic in front of it that happens to be making a lot of impact. So let's talk about that then more importantly, because how do you even go about doing that? And what does that even look like to even understand like attribution without the sale? Because I think that's hard for a lot of our affiliates to understand is we're a last click attribution platform.
Yeah, and I mean, my understanding, especially like ClickBank, is like mostly coupon doesn't exist in your world at all. And
We have, I would say we don't have necessarily the coupon affiliates per se because it's not coupon driven, but the equivalent for us would be negative review articles or people
mm,
that nab your branded keyword terms and
yep.
flood it with a bunch of stuff. Ideally, they're doing the exact same behavior of trying to take that high intent buyer that somebody else earned and get a quick and easy conversion off of it, which normally they're getting paid out the exact same commission that or within range of potentially one of your top affiliates driving tons of traffic that, like you said, you really, really want to work with. And they're kind of being nipped at the heels of a lot of these other affiliates.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like it doesn't even matter that much because even if you had no bottom of funnel affiliates in your program, this is the reputation of the industry, and this is why like when you're sort of asking for, because I think my if I was going to diagnose the biggest problem with affiliate marketing, it's that it's so under resourced. Teams make so much revenue and they're like a team of one or two, and this is the heart of why that is, because people don't trust affiliate marketing as much as they should because these stories are not being told of like the true value being delivered. So to sort of go back to more of what was your original questions and everything, I think one, you want to track all the revenue, that's essential, but you just want to tell a bigger story, which is like if someone reads, say, like an article about your product and they get really excited, but they never heard about your product, they get to your website, they're not going to immediately open up their wallet and pay because they're going to be like, okay, like let me think about this. Like they weren't looking to buy, they're not in that moment of like buying, but now they're like interested and they're like engaged. So having other signals other than just a purchase really helps here. So seeing like, hey, this publisher is sending a bunch of users who are then checking out like a bunch of my informational content or checking out a masterclass or subscribing for my newsletter. These are all really interesting indicators that they have the right kind of users that are engaging way higher. And it tells a different story because say you have like a bunch of loyalty affiliates, which again, like even though I'm being negative on like coupon loyalty, a lot of times that is what drives people to actually purchase. But it's really important as the affiliate manager that you can tell a bigger story of this, of like the value of other stuff, because you don't want to just report on loyalty, as that's not something that your boss can report to his boss, who can report to like the CMO or however you're structured. Like you want to have these juicy stories of like all the other publishers adding value. So you have your loyalty things, but you also have your like content publishers, your influencers, etc. And your ability to sort of say like, hey, this influencer drove 500 clicks. Here's what they're doing. Here's how many of them are engaged, etc. Is a very valuable first step. And then if you can then track that user onwards and give them a window of say like 45 days where like we would recommend like first touch attribution for this, where you're like, for the next 45 days, I don't really care what happens after the influencer. I'm going to give them credit on that. And then say 35 days later, they click on 20 other links, clicked on a paid ad, etc. But then they actually purchased. I still want to give that influencer credit in that situation because, again, they're top of funnel. They're driving new users. Those are new people that are potential customers. And I want to give the influencers as much credit as I possibly can give for the revenue being generated because I want them to scale their efforts. So I think when you start talking about attribution from the idea of like, who do I want to get credit so that they can scale their promotions, it really helps get rid of a lot of Sony like issues. Because in perfect attribution, you'd find out like, hey, there was actually 15 sources involved with this customer. You can't really make a decision with that. Whereas you can make a decision about like, this influencer was the first person who drove this user here. I can see that they were very engaged, and then they bought 35 days later. Even if there was other stuff involved, which we have some signals of like what were the other partners and channels involved with that. So you have that data, but fundamentally, who you want to reward is the one that you want to scale their promotions, and that's a really helpful thing to do it. So on one side, you have now so much more stuff you can report about all the extra value coming from the affiliate program. But there's the other piece of this, which is like, okay, once that person actually purchases or becomes a lead, what happens after that? Do they purchase again? Do they upsell to like a much more expensive plan? Like, are they a higher value customer? If you track this stuff back to influencers, it also looks super different because a really engaged user who has like brand affinity and is getting excited, when they become a customer, that's way higher value than say like a paid ad for like, I want to buy a pair of shoes. I bought a pair of shoes. Okay, now I'm set. Now I don't need. I'm like I'm not buying. I just need shoes, and I found the first link that sold me shoes, and I bought it. That person's not coming back again. Whereas someone who heard the story about how like this specific shoe brand like is made in Italy in this cool way, and like it's now the up and coming brand that everyone wants to know about. That person looks totally different in how they come back and purchase again. So that's why having all of these extra signals attributed back to these partners, not only does it allow you to sort of like change the viewpoint internally in your own company, which I think is a big thing, which again, the big challenge, like no one is disputing affiliate marketing makes a ton of money now. The thing is like, how do you convince your boss that your team should be 5 times larger? Because this is impacting the company's trajectory. Wow. Struggling with this word. Like the entire way the company is going to grow because it's
Yeah.
influencing so many of the users getting there.
Yeah,
Like
the
I think
entire
that is
trajectory as
powerful.
a whole. It's like you're saying like trans and trajectory at the same time. But
Yeah.
yes, so I love that because I think one of the things you said in there, it really changes the way that you can think about your affiliate marketing because it changes a lot about what you really need from it. And I think what's really powerful here is understanding that not every click is the same, but also that just because a conversion didn't happen within the first 5 days of a promo doesn't mean that those clicks weren't valuable, right? So it's just now really valuing every single click in a completely different way and looking at it from a lot of different viewpoints to where I think you could invite and change a lot more in the way that you start structuring these deals and going after affiliates, right? If we see that maybe this affiliate drives a lot of performance, but we get very little value out of the customers because the way that they acquire is much more aggressive. And so you're getting like the exact opposite of the story you mentioned. All these customers buy something, they refund and charge back at a higher rate than any of our other customers, and our LTV is super low. Yet because they send in so much front ends, we pay them a top CPA, but we get the least out of it. You're like, wow, this doesn't really make any sense. Why are we doing that? Versus, hey, we noticed that there was this influencer we paid that made us very little conversions, quote unquote conversions, but actually drove a ton of site activity. And we tracked for them over 45 days. They made huge LTV numbers for the people that bought. Those clicks now mean a ton, and you could structure a different type of deal for them, or at least bring back value and bring in those commissions at like a 45-day net or a 30-day net and keep them promoting because you see their value in a completely different way. I think that's really, really impressive. Let me
Yeah,
ask you
and
this.
one
So,
other thing on
oh,
that,
go ahead.
which I think is
Yeah.
everything, is like when we look at our own data, like we see that the customers are tracking this like post sales data, et cetera. They're tracking all these other events. Like they're seeing 30 to 70% more revenue on top of what they're getting from the conversion. So like that's the other piece of it is just you're getting to see a lot more of the ongoing revenue, like the true value being generated in terms of revenue,
Yeah.
which right now you're just not getting credit for. So you have that quick win too, which is like these affiliates were actually making way more money, or like this like top tier media buyer who's just killing it on Meta and knows exactly the audience to reach and is getting the right audience in. I'm generating so much extra revenue that I was not reporting internally. And as soon as you start reporting it, so there's a
You're right,
lot
because
of
that's the other thing.
actual opportunity
All
here.
the drip from that media buyer, they're not getting all their attribution. You might think, hey, we can't push anymore, realizing that there's like 10% or 15% of the traffic that they're bringing isn't even getting captured. It's just extra sales, right? So you're right. There's a lot of really powerful ways that you could start unlocking stuff in there. So let's talk. Actually, I want to talk a little bit. I want to circle back with you on the question exciting thing, but I want to talk a little bit more about some of the back end reporting, because I think this is something that could be exciting to everybody and should be exciting to everybody listening, because we know right now efficiency seems to matter more than just pure scale right now, because scale is getting expensive, but we can't turn scale off. So what we really need is just efficiency, so we keep acquiring, but at just a better margin within better numbers. So what are some of the ways that you feel and you've seen with your clients they're able to use some of these back end numbers to start look at LTV, to look at how much they're purchasing, how frequently they're purchasing, the scale of kind of that based on the affiliates? Just curious some things that you've seen.
Yeah, I think it's easiest to understand in things that are sort of like multi-stage conversion. So the starting place is sort of like stop looking at things in terms of a lead, or in like in the B2B sense, it's like the demo request. Like a lead means nothing, because if a lead could be like the biggest enterprise company came in, or it could be adsf at gmail.com. These are not the
Yeah.
same type of lead, but they both are the same conversion. And depending on how you're
Hmm.
structured, like you might be paying out the same on both of these, even though one of them you will never need. So I think that's the first piece. And then, so looking at a little bit more, and like, especially like a lead journey, it's easy to understand, which is lead means nothing. An approved lead is where the value at. So at least having this understanding of the stages of it. Same thing with like purchases. Like a purchase of $5 is not the same as a purchase of $250. So at
Hmm.
least taking it to that next level. And then a purchase of $250 where they bought again for another $150 a week later is a much more valuable user. And again, with affiliate, it's all about how do I credit more to my best publishers and affiliates so that they can scale their business, and that I can be more generous with them because I'm making so much more money and I know I'm making so much more money. So
Yeah.
this ability to sort of at least take that next step past the initial lead or purchase really helps. With a lot of the algorithms, you mostly only have like a week worth of data that you can pass to them, unfortunately, like
Hmm.
especially with Google Ads and stuff. Passing the true value 2 months down the line not as actually helpful, but it's really good internally for your own reporting to be like, oh, actually, like this ad is completely killing it, or this publisher is completely killing it because I'm generating a lot more revenue. But in terms of just feeding the especially paid ad algorithm, it's really about like what happens within the first week that tells it this is a much higher value customer. Because the more you tell Google and Meta that this is a user who is getting approved for like say like insurance things on a regular basis, it will find more audience like that and will target more audience. You say this is what is high value and this is what low value. So the more you can
Yeah.
actually pass these things and use this data, the more your affiliates are going to be successful with, and your own internal media buying is going to be more successful with it.
You know, that makes me think, because it sounds like when you start saying it, this is where my wheels start turning, because I think the idea of better downstream customer identification is a huge key that businesses need to start doing to operate in this rapid CPM world, right? Is not just identifying customers, but the specific right ones. So I love what you're saying is the idea of like event management. I want to see what happens after the purchase. They create signals that tell me, give me more of those. Hey, they're buying an upsell within 10 days, or they're buying an upsell within 7 days. They're buying a cross sell, whatever it is. We know that we're getting them to buy something. Campaign affiliate, let's get more of those. And it looks like, again, even feeding those back to the affiliate seems really, really big. Now, a question just for clarification here. You said you're only able to get, like, with the algorithms, you only really get 7 days coming back.
That's at least with
But
Google
for
Ads.
Yeah, so but if I was doing events, if I wanted to track events internally, so it could be the sell of maybe I have like a high ticket coaching, like health coaching thing that sold 60 days after the endpoint. I can still track that in Everflow, pipe that into the customer profile, and then say, great, over the last 60 days, here's all of my buyers that actually bought this course from this funnel, and then pipe that back into those leads for looks like audience, correct?
There might be ways to do it lookalike, and obviously you can track that data on your side. You should have that data, and you can make decisions with optimizing with that data, regardless. I just know specifically for Google Ads, and I believe I've heard this for other ones, is that even though you can pass all of this much later stage data into the platform, like you always in Google Ads, you said it's like a secondary source. So it's not
Hmm.
optimizing with that data directly because their algorithm just can't handle data that much later. Like our original setup was
Gotcha.
that way, and we just like kind of learned after like the third or fourth Google rep that it just doesn't work because their system's just not smart enough. So you should be using it internally, but you can't like the first week is when you can really stack the deck of how these ad platforms are set up. And
Gotcha.
just for an example, so with Everflow, like we run our own Google Ads campaigns, and there's like the base conversion is like demo request. Then we have this thing called marketing qualified lead, which for us is any company emails marketing qualified lead. And then we have a third stage of SQL or sales qualified lead, which is when do they actually book a demo with sales. And we automate this entire process because if we let the sales team do this, they might update like a week later or whatever else. And it's important to feed the signal as quickly into Google Ads as possible. So we put almost all of our value on the sales qualified lead of you actually booked a meeting with our sales team. And when we originally like switched this like passing data and really focusing from like the base demo conversion to the MQL SQL, we got a 91% increase in quality leads with only a 9% higher budget year over year. And the reason is
Wow.
because we told, hey, stop just sending us junk leads. We don't care. Send us the kind of leads that are actually booking meetings.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. And see, I see as I pull that in there, it's like, great. All you really need to do then, even if you know something on average takes 6 months, there's a signal that you could create within 7 days that tells you, hey, if they do this within 7 days, there's a really good chance that's my next lead. Just find me more of those. I think in general, I love that because I think a lot of people need to start building that into their business. If they don't have it, what's that signal that tells me this is the buyer that I want, not just the one that I got, which I think oftentimes we only optimize for just getting buyers, not getting the right buyers. So that's really, really powerful. And Everflow could definitely unlock that. Now let's talk about it specifically. I want to focus on now kind of these more non-traditional. So I think creators, podcasters, that can make some sense. Let's actually do one right now. Very specifically, I want to focus on podcasters. I always think there's some interesting attribution there because you have somebody that's listening to content, but they might not be clicking on something. They don't have necessarily that link attribution. So curious what you guys would do in certain situations like that. This could be similar for YouTubers oftentimes as well, or even somebody, if you're going through Reels, you might not click on the link. You might just want to come back to it later. So kind of walk me through how you do attribution on situations like that. We'll do podcast specifically to start out.
Yeah. I mean, these things are always tricky, and again, attribution gets very messy on these things because it's an imperfect science. So you're really just trying to be like, how can I get some signals as this happening? So the best one is like versus like a standard podcast, you want to be like, how else can I sort of like leverage this relationships? Like you do want if the podcaster has like a email list, anything else like that, you want to get that pushed there. If they put it on their website and social media, you want to make sure that all the link tracking is there because these are all, again, you just want to have signals that there is true value here and be able to have something you can report. So that's the first part is like, how do I do the standard click tracking? Because that's just the easiest, clearest path. The other
Mhm.
part is like you always want to use like promo codes. So make sure that all your podcasts have a unique tracking promo code. So at least in Everflow, you can assign a promo code to a partner, and whenever that code's used, it's automatically attributed to that partner without needing the basic click tracking, etc. And then we also have this thing called like promo code like tracking URL. So when you create a code and assign it, it will create a redirect link as well. That's something like say like everflow.io/ like affiliated. And when they go to that, it redirects them so that these are all things you can shout out in the podcast
Nice.
itself to track it. Like those help. But I think that these are always going to be somewhat tricky. And really, with all these things, it's like, how do I have the narrative and also have these extra signals? Like the other one is like self attribution. So you want to make sure that when people actually just request a form, they can say like, "How did you hear about us?" That they can either type in the podcast name or select it from lists. You can do it those ways too, but you're still going to miss a lot of it. And I mean, we do a lot of podcasts. We do not have perfect attribution on most of the podcasts we do, which is why you can never forget that like attribution is just a tool to make better decisions and to give credit to the right sources. But at some point you have to just be like, this is strategically valuable and I can justify to like senior management on why we're doing this and their reach and give you some numbers to sort of like detail it. But there is always the marketing side of like, how do I tell the narrative of how this matters internally so that I can get more resources to keep scaling the things that like strategically make sense.
Well, I think that transitions perfectly. I think the next things. I think it's a perfect answer here, which is the idea of switching from tracking to thinking event tracking. How do we structure what the event is? 'Cause I think when you start to get software attribution and areas where it's a little bit more difficult, sometimes the challenge is more what we're required to ask for attribution feels a little bit wrong versus what we actually need to. It might open things up when we think about this idea of event tracking. So before I steal your thunder, why don't you talk a little about what event tracking is and what that unlocks for attribution people oftentimes,
Yeah,
or
I think when you,
attribution with people, not in people.
what you just said was a really good point too. So I'd love to loop back to that. But in very basic, event tracking is just instead of having a single conversion, you are tracking all of the stages of the user from their engagement. And usually, like the early engagement event tracking is very simple for the most part, which is basically like, did they go to my pricing page? Did they go to my product page? Did they go to newsletters and webinars and any other signal there? And it's as simple as like, when your affiliate or publisher sends traffic and they get to your website and they go to that page, you just fire it off. And like the beauty of having that simplicity of like firing off the tracking in that situation is, again, all of these top of funnel publishers, this is going back to what you were talking about before, podcasts and like content websites and influencers, a lot of times they're driving what we call top of funnel demand, which is people discovering your brand for the first time and they're not ready to buy. And too much of affiliate and performance marketing is just in that moment of purchase because it's like that's where the revenue is. It's really clearly valuable, but it does miss a lot of the value, which is why like large scale brands, there's a reason they spend so much of their money on brand awareness because they're trying to get more users in the funnel because they know they can convert them later. With every program though, like it is important that you start figuring out how to tell the story on top of showing the revenue so that you can sort of get this benefit of it and scale your team, etc. So going back to like say a content publisher, like I don't know if that content article about why Everflow is a good product is going to drive them to actually request a demo and be reached out by sales for quite a long time. But I can use these event signals before that to tell a much quicker story, which is like, I did this podcast. They did a newsletter where they pushed it out to their email list. I can see that 60 people clicked on that newsletter, came to my website, and then checked out, like, say, my platform to understand the specific feature, or went to my pricing page to understand the feature. Like, that is very quick attribution, and it's a lot less messy because I don't. When you start thinking about who becomes a customer, there's lots of stuff that influences them. But who drove them to my pricing page? I can safely say, like, anything I'm doing should be able to drive someone to like some early point of engagement. So that's why this whole event tracking of engagement is really valuable. And the way you use it is a lot of times you're really just using it to report internally for them to understand why you do the things you do, which is most of the things people need answered anyway, because you'll always have the revenue pieces and you'll be balancing that act of like how much top of funnel am I driving versus performance to make sure that I'm hitting my goals. And then, as we were saying, like the other parts of events are you can track all the things that happen after the conversion, which is like repeat purchases, subscriptions, upsells, etc. The way that we do this internally with our tracking is we have this concept of email attribution, which is basically like whenever we capture an email, which is like someone signs up for a webinar, someone signs up for a newsletter, or someone requests a demo, when we have that email, we then attribute that to the original partner source. So any future activity where I see that user email, I can attribute it back. So I know, okay, this influencer drove someone who signed up for my newsletter. 3 months down the line, because I actually have an email, so now I have a permanent record, I see that user then requested a demo. I can attribute that back to the influencer in that situation. When that user then upgrades to a more expensive plan or like uses an upsell of like a new product, I can take that email of that user in that situation and be like, okay, that originally was this influencer. So now I have this ongoing record with something that's a pretty permanent identifier to sort of know all these things. So that's how I can show that like not only are they driving sales, but they're driving so much more revenue that affiliates should have been getting credit for, but in most systems they don't have that data, so it's just it goes to the clouds or it gets attributed to the wrong channel.
Yeah, well, I love that too because that gives so much opportunities as well to re-engage with affiliates. Because oftentimes you could come to them. One of the hardest things is coming back to an affiliate with a reason they should care. And but if you could go back and say, "Hey, we've been able to track all this LTV they brought that they didn't get anything paid on. Why don't we say, hey, we're going to come with a check at 25% of everything they earned?" And bring them a surprise to get them to re-engage and say, "Hey, remember how much money you made with us before? Well, you're still making money. Would you like to promote again?" Right? Like, boom, here you go. That's a fun conversation to have. So I love this because it not only unlocks the decisions that you can make on the front end, but it creates new pathways to re-engage and be strategic in your business, in your affiliate marketing business, in ways that you just can't without this data. So you might feel like you're going to your affiliate managers and you're asking for more affiliates and they're asking for better data or better offers, and you're just left in this period where both you guys are holding your hands thinking we both are missing something. It's probably exactly this: they're missing the real impact of the right affiliates and the real money that they're making, and this having this conversation will really change the way you could go about and drive some of that affiliate traffic. So I really love that.
Yeah, and,
Well,
and
let
on
me
that, I
oh,
mean,
go ahead.
a simple thing is like if you know there's a lot more revenue and you're paying your best affiliates 25% more, that's going to really help them scale too. But obviously,
Right.
you got to justify that internally with your margins, et
Oh
cetera.
yeah.
So the more you can sort of show the true revenue value, the more levers you have to actually scale up these affiliates or to even start
Yeah.
running like brand budgets on top. Like you don't have to just run performance if they have other
Hmm.
channels that they can promote you with, and you can then show the true revenue. You get so many more levers with affiliates
Yeah.
you already have relationships with.
Yeah, I love that. Like, you could be more intelligent instead of having just look at some basic numbers and your napkin math to think, "Oh, I hope I'm not losing money." Know that with certainty, you're not only losing money, you're gaining money. You just know exactly where it's coming from. So no, I think that's hugely powerful and very underutilized. I could tell you it's underutilized right now because I think a lot of people, honestly, I'll say they get ClickBank and they think, "Hey, isn't this enough reporting?" And where it's enough to get started, it's not enough to truly create the fully scaled and efficient affiliate program that you want, and I would argue you really need right now. So, well, with that being said, we covered a lot of, I think, the non-traditional sources, but I wanted to cover, well, and you said there's one thing you wanted to circle back on that I said earlier when I was talking about it. Do you want to do that
Oh,
right
that was
now
just
before
like
we
the
move past?
influencer piece and just this like
Yeah.
understanding of top of funnel and that there's like
Yeah.
an entire another side of value being delivered by so many of these interesting like influencers and podcasts and all these other things that you need to be able to tell a story on. Like I think that's just
Yeah.
important.
No, for sure. I think even one that we like again with emerging technology or emerging traffic channels, connected TV is a really good one where who the heck knows what kind of reporting you're going to get from the actual networks and what's coming from this emerging tech. But I'll tell you what, the more attribution I could know on the awareness campaigns and the fact that my program or my product is in front of people's TVs, boy, I bet you could track some really impressive things that'll make that channel one of your big drivers for high margin transactions. But if you don't have the reporting, you might think it's another dud. So I think it's really, really key to look out some of these, like I said, these emerging markets. Now, as we transition though, let's kind of talk specifically about ClickBank and how this can be utilized. I think one that we talked a little bit about before is the awareness of maybe even the affiliates that are taking and really should not be getting the commissions you'd want to give them because they're ultimately just similar. Again, this isn't a bash coupon affiliates, right? But it is to say that they oftentimes skew our viewpoints of what is efficient for our affiliate programs. So we have that
And
same thing going on with the Google review stuff. So I think this is a huge piece to know how much that's hurting your affiliates, your affiliate business, and what affiliates it's directly hurting. Maybe these kind of affiliates just need to be on a lower tier percentage. Not that they don't need to exist. They're bringing value because the sales might not have happened without them, but they're not necessarily working in the same way as the person that got the initial. So I kind of curious of just some things that would be as I'm transitioning this a big thing is like curious over some other kind of Everflow ClickBank 101 things you could think of that are helpful for people to know when we're bringing this on.
yeah, so I think with the coupon stuff and all of these ones, so we have a report that was originally built for like mobile use cases, but has turned out to be really useful for any sort of like e-commerce lead gen type offer, which is called click to conversion time. And it's exactly the time it takes from the affiliate click to the conversion. And I find it's especially useful when understanding things like coupon or any of these very like bottom of funnel promotions, because you can sort of think of it this way, which is like if the affiliate is driving a lot of sales and like the click to conversion time is like 1 minute, are they really adding that much value? Maybe, but like you want to make sure that either the lower payout, you want to make sure that they're definitely not first touch attribution, that they're last touch, so that they're only there when they're sort of closing the deal. But on the other hand, there's a lot of like loyalty and even some of this like brand keyword bidding and everything else where they're basically driving it to like a landing page. They're adding a lot of value and content. And you can see that through like a longer click to conversion window, which is basically like that means that someone clicked. And even if like say they were taken to a loyalty website and they clicked on a loyalty website, but they're like, ooh, this is a really good deal. I just need to add my $50 more to my cart. And then they shop for an hour before they purchase. That's still anytime they're driving shopping behavior and money, that is high value. And a lot of times
Gotcha.
affiliates can sort of like get people to shop more or to make bigger purchases because now they're looking
You
at
can
like a
know
better
that now.
opportunity there.
Gotcha. But the idea is you have clarity in that. So it's not just a blast of I don't want any of them. I want all of them. It's I want the right behavior and you can know the truth of that versus just having to say yes or no to all of it. So I love that. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Are there any other features you'd say you see some of your clients that some of our mutual clients on ClickBank or maybe even on the affiliate side where unlocking and using Everflow could really help and improve your ClickBank affiliate business?
Yeah, I think a big one is our media buying integrations help a lot. So, one, we have for your own campaigns the ability to sort of integrate with Meta, Google Ads, TikTok, and Snapchat. So you have the ability to basically make sure that you can track all the traffic coming from those channels. You can do all the attribution and you can make sure that all that event data, especially those like next step data points, are being passed into your ad platforms for optimization, which, as I said, like makes a huge difference towards the quality you get.
Yeah.
That also exists for all your affiliates. So any affiliate media buyers for anything you're not doing in house, or if you want support reaching more stuff, they get that real time attribution data into their ad platforms, which especially for affiliates, a lot of times like they're running blind all that stuff and they're so good at what they do, they're running it profitably despite that. But if they have accurate data and attribution on every single dollar they're generating for you, they can do much better on their campaign. So I think the whole media buying piece is a huge thing. And it's really helpful to see media buying versus your other channels to know, again, how much more value some of these like non-traditional affiliates are driving in terms of engagement is really helpful, because a lot of times like there is places where media buying again is driving real shopping behavior, real engaged users, and there's sometimes where it's only adding a little bit of value on top and it's not that much. And it's good to have everything speaking the same language, so you're really able to show like actually like, these influencers like they're clearly reaching a new audience because the engagement is so much higher than this media buying, even though like let's not cut our media buying, it's making a lot of revenue. You have these sort of like ability to do apples to apples comparisons to really help with like better decisions and also understanding how these all fit together.
Yeah, I love the normalization aspect of that. I think that's so underutilized. And one, I'll say first, I can't tell you how many affiliate managers are out here going, "Gosh, if I could just give those affiliates more data, they would just love to unlock that." Because then they could optimize for things like highest AOV. What's the optimal cart value? Give me just more of those users. I really want these ones. And instead of you having to figure out the technical layout to do and host somebody's pixel on your page and figure out how to suppress it, blah, right? I'm sure just working through Everflow makes that all so simple. So love that. But the other part that you were talking about that I think really, well, I got excited and then I got excited with this and forgot about it.
Yeah.
No, oh, is the apples to apples. So actually, prior to working at ClickBank, I worked for a company that was one of our big plays in financial data, which is normalizing the data from one platform to another, from one bank to the other, because previously these companies would spend days just to reconcile one bank's data and then to get it all normalized to speak the same language. Next thing you know, you're 3 days behind on data. You might as well not be making any decisions because you're never timely. And with this, with marketing day, it could be the same thing. By normalizing everything, now you could clearly see where efficiency can be spent, where efficiency could be made up with, instead of assumptions. Because I think in a lot of lack of data, what happens, we just make assumptions with what we know, and we don't actually have all the data. So that's brilliant. Right now, if you're looking at your business wondering where the grains, where the different nuggets are that are sitting in there, basically the veins of profit in your gold mine that you've built, Everflow will unlock that so quickly just by some of the things we talked about. So that's really, really cool. I love that normalization factor.
Yeah, it's definitely important. I think another thing that's very good for like ClickBank customers to know that's really helpful is just we have this report called Dimensional Analytics Report, and it just
Mm-hmm.
allows you to sort of break down your data, filter down. It's like a real time pivot table where you can filter down your data
Oh,
really
cool.
quick, and that one is also enormously helpful. Like the ones that I use it for is like easy Google Ads case of like one of the most annoying things about Google Ads is I can just be like I'm going to select the partner of Google Ads and my main promotion offer. What are the countries that my clicks and conversions are coming from? Because you would be like, it's so frustrating about Google Ads that they have this like concept of intent based locations by default. So if someone in like, let's say in Cambodia is looking up a bunch of French restaurants, they'll be like, oh, they have the intent of France. So your ad and targeting France will then show to them. So it's like one of those things that like we've had more than one campaign where he turned it on and then immediately had to like go in and fix the location setting because it's really easy to just accidentally forget it. And just making sure you understand what are the cities and countries your traffic is coming from is enormously valuable. The other part where it's really useful is like we recommend all our customers pass under, we have this idea of sub 1 through sub 5, which are basically placeholders. Anything can pass them, but you should be making sure that all your partners are passing their placements either as names or IDs, whatever is easiest or like works for the partner. But if you have like the ability to see like, okay, I received 1,000 clicks, and of that 1,000 clicks, half those clicks came from placement ID 5, another quarter came from placement ID like 10. I can sort of see the performance on the placement level. And a lot of times, just like being able to see the data lets you see like what's really working there. And there's usually like a couple key placements that are delivering like most of the high quality customers and a couple other ones that are driving like much larger volumes of conversions at like a lower value, and it's kind of a blend for the affiliate to be paid, and both sides would be happier. You're like, hey, turn off these 5 low quality placements and I'm just going to double your payout on these 3 because it's so much higher ROI from us. Like the affiliate has to do this because they have to make their like money, and like they can't just send you their best quality sources if like you're not paying them enough for that. And most companies don't trust them enough to pay them like the true value of like their highest quality leads. So the
Yeah.
blending is pretty normal of like high quality and mediocre ones. But it's really helpful if you can just be like, turn off the mediocre ones. I know the value of your high quality ones. Let me pay you more there. Everyone's happier. You're doing them a favor. If they have some just like completely like low quality or suspicious traffic, a lot of times they don't know either. Even if they're doing media buying, there's always placements that are just awful. And
Yeah.
if you're just like, hey, can you turn these off? Like, don't waste your money on them either. Like, you're doing them a favor. And as long as you're having an active communication, you're really managing your relationship and building it, these things just make it better for everyone.
Well, I imagine those the things you're mentioning too are really easy when you have the whole of traffic coming in. But as an affiliate, those are maybe harder things to pay attention to, especially if you don't have ease of that access and that data. So I really love that's a great service for every affiliate manager. Think of this, it's a service you're providing for your affiliates. You're giving them efficiency in their spend. And whether that's to say, hey, what is this listing? Even if you don't know what it is, but you know that it's performing like crap or if it's performing really well, what creatives could we give you to give you more spend there? I really love the idea of shut off these other ones that you're just wasting our money and yours on, and we'll just pay you more out here. we're all good. Like that's, I think, another fantastic idea, but just unlocks these different efficiency levels in your affiliates. So, well, let me ask you this. So, Michael, how could somebody, if they're listening to this, and hopefully everyone's sitting here thinking, gosh, damn, if I don't want to get more efficient and better, I need to have Everflow if I don't already. That's the question I want going in everyone's heads. So, as they have that question, what is the answer? How do they get started getting on a demo with you or a member of your team so they could start taking advantage of some of these insights and getting efficiency back into their affiliate programs?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing is to request a demo from Everflow. I'm sure we can get a link going
Yep.
after this podcast where people can click through and they'll be tracking for it.
Get
Since
that
we should
attribution,
probably
guys.
drink our own champagne here.
Right.
Um, so that's the first step is just request a demo. Like we're happy to do a pilot. So because we want to make sure that it's like very low risk to start. But again, the as we all know with affiliate marketing, it's not just snap and it works. Like you have to like make sure that after everything's set up, that you're reaching out to your partners, you're getting them handled the right way, you're making sure the data is tracking the right way. Like there is work there. We do a ton of customer success and onboarding there, but you do need to have resource commitment for this to work at all. So that's why like there has to be like a paid pilot for this, but it's like a short like 3-month window. If it's not working out for you, if you're not getting extra value from the data, you can always cut it at that time. That way you're not taking on much risk. We do a ton of training onboarding. If you're like, we have agencies that we can basically have do the implementation on your behalf. We can even bake that into the way it works because again, I keep going into this, but it's really important to understand is that like so much of what affiliate managers are being held back is they don't have enough resources to do this stuff. So anything that can make it easy, but and like you want to find what is the quickest win. So I would say like test this out for a like pilot, see get the traffic running through our system, get some of this extra like event data going on it. You can just have ClickBank as a single partner in the system with this placement ID information, so you can sort of see the placement there, and then see if this extra data can sort of let you scale them up. In the early days, you can sort of manage them directly through ClickBank, and then afterwards, you can sort of figure out like, okay, like how do I get this more granular? Get like all the ClickBank stuff broken out by partners, get it taking the next level, pass in more data, etc. But there's a ways to sort of take it so that you're like, how do I get a quick win out of this data as soon as it's set up? And our team will provide the sort of the technical support to get all these things going. But it's just making sure that you like, what is going to be my win to sort of like know that this pilot was successful? I think that's the best way to do it. And then how do I then use this data to sort of support my media buying affiliates, all the other great ones from ClickBanks to sort of scale further and to be more efficient.
I love that. It's come in and get that quick win. So, because sometimes just going through these data implementations, it's always a bit more of a headache than you want it to be. Most of the time, because you didn't have a good data infrastructure to begin with, because you didn't have the tracking in place. So it's a bit of like a shoebox transition oftentimes. So I would encourage people to always be patient, but definitely go through the demo, because right now to know that within 90 days that you could put yourself in position to have a very good quick win is fantastic, because 90 days, we're going to be on the edge of Q1. So getting some of these big data wins, winning back some of your affiliates and some more traffic is going to matter in making your Q1 fantastic. When a lot of other people are looking at a dark Q1, you could be excited about yours. So we'll make sure to put a link in the show notes so people could go and get one of those demos. Obviously, they could go to everflow.com. They could find Michael, any member of his team. And you guys are at events pretty often as well. So go to the booth. It's hard to escape Everflow. And if you can't figure it out, you could always reach out to us at affiliated@clickbank.com, and we will make a connection as well to get you that demo link so you could enjoy Everflow in your business also. So, Michael, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Listeners, rate, review, subscribe, do all the things, ring the bell, make sure people continue to know where the podcast is, where they can listen to it. And we did celebrate with our new channel. We got over 1,000 on YouTube on our new channel. So we're going to celebrate with some authentic wine, but let's keep it going, because I think at 5,000, we're going to make Thomas shave his beard. I have not agreed with this with him yet, but damn it, let's go make it happen. So Michael, again, have a great day. Thank you so much for coming and bringing such great content. Until next time, guys, Thomas would say happy scaling. I'll tell you, keep safe out there. Thanks so much.